Should the Vancouver Canucks go after Shane Wright? What about the Montreal Canadiens? There's a lot of irony here, but bear with me, because we have some updates that I thought were interesting enough to dive into today, starting out with Matt Larkin and his NHL trade board on Daily Faceoff. This article will be linked in the description. It is from earlier this morning, and if you scroll down past the Panarins and the Pedersens and the Trocheks and the Hamiltons, you will find some really interesting names in the second column here. The article starts out with some defined trade names, guys that will get moved, and then there are some names to keep an eye on. Now, scrolling by and finding Shane Wright on this article is quite the trek, but there is a write-up that I do think is worth paying attention to. Shane Wright is 22 years old, $866,000 through the end of 2027, and the Kraken are seemingly searching for a splashy add to their top six forward group. They're potentially willing to sacrifice Shane Wright to do so, as reported by David Pagnotta on the DFO Rundown this week. Wright would be a fascinating buy. He still has another year left on his entry-level contract after this one, and he has proven to be an efficient scorer in his extremely limited opportunities, averaging 18 goals per 82 games despite only playing 13.37 per night. Shane Wright, like many of the other Seattle Kraken young players, hasn't really developed in the ways that we thought he would. I don't want to throw this as a big slight against Seattle and their development, but Shane Wright was supposed to be a first overall 80-90 point caliber NHL center, a guy who would follow in the same mold of a Jonathan Toews or something along those lines. Vision of an Alexis Lafreniere, the offensive skills of some of these other first overall players. Wright was a beast, and he was another one of these exceptional status guys who was able to enter the CHL a year early, despite being a little bit young because he was so good. 22, 6 feet, 198, right-handed center, taken fourth overall by Seattle after being the projected first overall pick. Wright is coming off of a season last year where he had 44 points in 79 games. This year, he's got 17 points in 49, and he is on pace for 29 points in total. Not bad, but definitely a step down from what he had done last year. And for a 22-year-old, you do not want to see this sort of downward progression this early into his career. When you head over to the 2022 draft, you can see that Wright is one of the top guys in points. I mean, he's top 5. Gauthier, Hudson, Cooley, and Slavkovsky all have more points than Wright, which is understandable. But the fact is, this guy was supposed to be number 1. The fact that he slipped to 4 was a total anomaly of the year. We understand why it happened, but still, nobody expected it to happen. And now Shane Wright is trade bait for Seattle to potentially improve their top 6. I do question the direction. If you want to be immediately competitive now, then okay, I guess you could say that's a reasonable take on why you would trade away a really nice young player like Wright for an immediate piece. But the Seattle Kraken are not really doing all too well this season. I mean, their second wild card, yes, they are in the playoffs technically, but they've got 2-3 teams breathing down their neck. There is a reasonable chance that they miss out on the dance. Do you sacrifice the long-term potential of a Shane Wright for an immediate piece that helps you potentially lose out against Colorado in the first round? I don't know if that's really the best asset management, but hey, this is the same team that gave Chandler Stevenson a big deal, so maybe they just want to focus on the now. But when it comes to Shane Wright and teams that could make sense, there was a comment section on the R Canucks subreddit that I wanted to read out to you here. Quick question. A few young centers are available. Who should the Canucks take? Brad Lambert, Shane Wright, Happy Friday. Top comment says none. The Vancouver Canucks should not take any of these guys because reclamation projects are not worth risking the assets you have to give them up. Build through the draft. Wright isn't exactly a reclamation project, lol. He is still on his ELC and had 44 points in his rookie year on a terrible Seattle team. If they do something based around Garland for Wright, I'd do that easily. If he's not a reclamation project, then you're having to give serious assets to get him. I know Seattle is mismanaged, but you're not getting a 22-year-old Wright on his ELC for a 30-year-old Connor Garland. And so turns out if the Kraken do want top 6 help, I don't really know if Connor Garland is the guy to fit the bill, just considering the fact that Garland, really, when he's on a good team, he's probably not a top 6 player. I mean, he was third line in Vancouver when they made the playoffs 2 years ago, so that's kind of the caliber of player that I think Garland is. Also, he had just signed, so I don't know if he would be really that easy to move. I guess for Shane Wright, maybe it's possible, but then again, I don't know if Seattle says yes to that. Ultimately, the idea of taking on reclamation projects in Vancouver has been a failure so far. Sure, there are younger guys that are in the lineup today, like Victor Mancini, but that's not really a reclamation project scenario. You know what was a reclamation project, though? Vitaly Kravtsov, Jack Studnicka, Eric Bronnstrom. These guys that were highly touted prospects and young dudes on their old teams that did not end up becoming anything, getting sent to Vancouver for a second chance, and ultimately they did not fulfill any of the expectations. Even Daniel Sprong from last season was also one of these guys. Vancouver has had their fair share of misses on reclamation project assets, but for Shane Wright, it's like, hey, the guy got 44 points just last year at 21 years old. There is a good enough player here, but then again, it's like if Seattle really does evaluate him in the same way that Vancouver might, they probably would be asking for the moon and the stars. Now, where do the Montreal Canadiens come into this conversation? Well, this was posted onto the Habs subreddit the other day as well. I do think that for Shane Wright, it's interesting because Montreal needs center help, and Shane Wright, of course, is a center. This was posted on Habs. Seattle would be open to including Wright in a larger package to acquire a top 6 threat. And Habs fans are reminiscing. I remember the reaction to Slav being drafted first over Wright. Today, not a single soul would write the same thing about Slav. The very core of the team that makes us so hopeful was drafted on that day. Slav instead of Wright, and Hudson in the second round. There are a lot of what-ifs in life, but the 22 draft was the turning point in the Canadiens franchise. Critics and fans were hard on management, but we wouldn't be as excited for the future without those pillars. Let this be a moment for us to appreciate how blessed we are for 2022. And here's the picture of Shane Wright staring down the Montreal Canadiens bench after they passed up on him first overall. He's still staring, man. Shane Wright's got that death stare going on here as he eagerly puts on his new sweater of a team that is now trying to trade him just 4 years later. I had no idea he did the stare down putting the jersey on too. Yeah, that is absolutely true. Slavkovsky is just scratching the surface. He is only 21. Thank goodness for Hughes. The man can draft. I remember while some are very vocal against getting Slav, some also realized fast that something went wrong in the interviews. His attitude and getting ignored 2 more times. I'm so glad we got Slav. He fits the team like a glove. He had an adjustment period, but the coaches did a really good job. I was mad when the pick happened, and then within 30 seconds I was on the Slav hype train because he was our boy. I mean, yeah, I hope you were. He was the first overall pick after all. But with all this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Where does the future of Shane Wright lie in the National Hockey League? Does a team starved for youth like Vancouver go out there and try to make something happen? Does a Montreal team circle back and say, hey, you wanted to play for us, right? You thought we would draft you, so why not come down over here again? Obviously, though, I don't know if Montreal has the assets to make a Wright trade work. The Kraken want top 6 help, and the Canadiens, I mean, they got a few guys coming back from injury, so there's a possibility something can work out. But with all that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Shane Wright and his NHL future? This guy could be on his way out, folks. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.